Recording now. Okay, Jamie. It's nice to. What time is it over there?
It's 9 p.m. Drew.
And it's warm.
So
Bloody warm. Yeah.
It's finally nice to catch up to you, mate, and put a face to the face and get this group into action and get people off their bums and out of this zone of complacency where sitting around and waiting is going to bring some sort of resolution or righteousness to receive what we're entitled to, because it's not. Sitting and waiting is just not going to resolve absolutely anything. These betting agencies are going to keep screwing us.
Yeah. They've no. There's no. I mean, a lot. We've been sort of like. I sent them a letter, an email asking for basically pointing out a few things, and they simply just do not want to talk and just moving us on to IBAS, and I'm not really hopeful. I don't think IBAS, from what I've heard, want to investigate much either. So it looks like we're going to have to just present the evidence.
Yeah. Okay. So what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve is just a simple, direct path to have this case reviewed by mediation with a resolution, and that resolution being that that Biden is disqualified from the US elections as a contestant due to widespread international and domestic fraud and interference. Now, the betting agencies, I received an investigation from the betting agencies, being Sportsbet. We still haven't received a reply from Betfair, from Peter Jackson, the CEO of Flutter, and the CEO of a lot of subsidiaries under Betfair and under the Flutter umbrella. So we still haven't received a reply.
In there, isn't there?
Sportsbet did comply. Now, this is such a simple case. We don't need the US election to be overturned. All we need for us to claim Trump as the winner is that the evidence be presented and viewed. Because once the evidence is presented and viewed, you cannot ignore it, you cannot deny it, you can argue it, but you will not win, because the evidence is so staggering, it's overwhelming, and it's irrefutable. So firstly and foremostly, the betting agencies have a primary obligation to investigate fraud or interference in all matters suspicious to the regulators and other government agencies. So we've yet to receive a reply that was actually complied with from the regulators. Well, the regulators seem to be just doing as they've always done, protecting the betting agencies, and that's all you're ever going to get. And if you don't see that or you don't understand it, it's a good time to start. So we've just got a simple case. It's really simple. Betting agencies are required under the Consumer Protection Framework to investigate all matters of fraud, which Sportsbet did, and being a subsidiary under the Flutter umbrella, we believe that they've all used this third-party link. The third-party link that investigated the fraud, it only reported, and I quote, it reported on 60 cases of litigation that were presented to the US courts, being federal and supreme, that there was no credible or lack of credible evidence that would have overturned the US election. Now, not once did ever any court state or quote that there was a lack of evidence or no evidence that would have overturned the US election for 2020. That is nonsense. It is not true. It is false, because no court viewed any evidence, bar one. One court did. And that evidence it viewed, it requested further analysis of the machines. And from that analysis, it then requested subpoenas. Those subpoenas were issued, and those subpoenas were denied, and they were vigorously denied, and they are still denied as of today. The subpoenas were to perform forensic analysis of the entire machines in a particular county. Now, from what we've seen, with the support of fractionalised weight voting in the Dominion machines, it cannot be argued, well, it can be argued, but it cannot be denied that vote flipping did occur, and it caused Donald Trump to lose the election, regardless of the mail-in ballots. It was the vote flipping and the vote switching between international countries, being China, Iran, and several other countries. All that packet data existed, and it existed prior to the January the 6th Congress certification of any ballots. As did the National Intelligence, the Director of National Intelligence report, who's responsible for 17 intelligence agencies, investigation into interference and fraud was irrefutable that fraud and interference did occur and alter the outcome of the US election. That alone should have stopped betting agencies from paying out on a fraudulent winner. So they are now accomplices to fraud.
So that they should have really basically disqualified the party that's involved with the fraud and just gave it to Trump. That's all they should have done, isn't it?
Well, that's the right thing to do. I mean, if you've got an ounce of integrity or any business ethical standards or codes of ethics or consumer protection.
Yeah, but don't the betting thing, they must deal with cheaters in sport. They're sports bettors. They must have a policy.
Well, absolutely. I mean, when you take a horse race, for example, if a horse is found to be cheating on performance-enhancing drugs or a jockey interferes with another horse, it's immediately disqualified. I mean, you can't have a rule for one thing and then make up the rules for the other thing. You've got to have a basic standard, and there is basic standards. They do exist. And the thing is, our case exposes those basic standards, and it uses those for which we then examine the investigation that they did prior to paying out on the contestant, which was involved in fraud.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's pretty simple. They can't deny that there was fraud or interference which changed the election. They cannot. They can argue it, but they won't win in an argument because the evidence is so damning, it is so irrefutable and is staggering and overwhelming. There's no chance of any success there. And the statement that they used to determine that there was no credible fraud or interference was false, it was not true, and it was faked. It was basically parroting and mimicking the mainstream media narrative, which the mainstream media narrative was complicit in the voter fraud itself.
So Betfair, quite a big Flutter, quite a big company. What can we do about it?
What can we do about it is we're working at the moment, finalising our research, and we're compiling a series of demands. If those demands aren't met, we'll file for a gambling, wagering dispute with a resolution to resolve the dispute by viewing the evidence and by examining their investigation.
So
I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, their investigation was botched. It was not true. It was false and was faked.
okay,
And they've tried to diminish their liability by using a third party, which you cannot transfer liability. You, as a corporation or a business or a company, you're primarily obligated and responsible for your actions.
yes,
Liability is transferable.
yeah,
They do this all the time. Companies,
yeah.
insurance companies and banks, they try and transfer liability. They use third-party reports, doctors' reports, or research reports, and they try and get out of things like that. They
So
use loopholes, they expose this and they expose that, and that's up to us. We are
we're not
exposing
yeah.
we are exposing their licensing and gambling obligations and requirements. It doesn't matter about the rules. The rules are not applicable in this situation because it comes down to the investigation that they primarily initiated. Okay, before any rules were adhered to under their rules, which are questionable because rules should be agreed to, have been read as being agreed to by ticking a box, because every market had a particular different style of rule or wording to the rules, which you probably wouldn't even see unless you looked with a magnifying glass or you were right up against the
I
screen.
mean,
So,
do they have a box for you to verify whether if you agree to them, if you agree to their terms when you're placing a
well,
bet?
generally, you're offering some sort of financial instrument which makes money, and there's a particular set of rules governing that market. It should be accompanied by by measures that you must read those rules, and it must be known that you've read those rules, and those rules were agreed to upon you proceeding any further. Otherwise, those rules can be changed at any time without your notice to the advantage of the operator or the betting agency, and that could be a case of negligence from the regulators or the licensing boards that perhaps maybe didn't request or require the betting agencies to install, or perhaps the betting agencies just didn't install it by law. So, I mean, we're trying to get to the bottom of that. And, I mean, at the end of the day, we only need to go to court. We need to have the mediation heard in a court, in a legal setting,
Yeah.
where they are forced to review their initial investigation, which was false and not true, that no credible evidence was found that would have changed or overturned the US election. That is nonsense. It is not true, and it is absolute fabrication. That argument will not stand up in court. It will not. So if they want a civil suit, we'll give them a civil suit. But if they want to settle, prior to that, well, that's the opportunity we're going to offer them. And we're also going to go for damages because there's clear case of negligence, and negligence is very easy to prove. I mean, we've only got to issue and request and file for certain subpoenas, and we're going to have everything. You're probably going to have a criminal case as well. I mean, the regulators, we've also written to and requested, why was the cash out disabled? Where's your investigation to for the compliance records for the cash out being disabled? Where's the reasoning behind it? Because that's highly suspicious and speculative.
Can you just explain what cash out is? Because a lot of people may not know what cash out is.
So under the online wagering licensing agreements, they've had to install either three things. It was either pre-commitment, opt-out, it was called opt-out, and there was one more. But the betting agencies went with cash out, like Sportsbet, Betfair. I'm sure all the others, they use the terminology called cash out. Now, cash out gives you the opportunity as a punter to either cut your losses or take your winnings before your bet is over. It's as simple as that. So if your bet's losing and you're watching your bet and it looks like it's going to lose, so before you lose, you've made a $10,000 bet and it's getting down to your cash out. You click on cash out. You've got $1,000 left, and you look at it and you go, "There's no chance of winning. I'm taking my last grand. Thanks."
Right.
So instead of losing 10 grand, you just lost 9. Now, if your bet is winning and the odds are coming down and almost even odds, and you're not so sure, you can cash out and get pretty much close to your full amount of winnings. That was disabled. So that's highly suspicious in any terms. And the regulators, they probably should have looked into it, because I'm pretty sure some people complained about it. So
I believe an Irish gentleman, I think his name is Finton. He's actually complaining very, very strongly about that, the cash out. In fact, I think he's doing a class action of his own.
Yeah, I've seen Fintan's work, and I noted that originally he had the cash out there, and he hasn't used it in his action for resolution. It's in my mind, that's speculative in itself. So, yeah.
But this method that you're doing, this way of tackling this problem is actually the only one was going for our winnings, which was really rightly should have got because of fraud. There's no one going after the fraud for the no one's going directly after the winnings, are they?
No, they're not, and that makes me wonder myself, because people are going, "Oh, it's over, it's over, it's over." Well, it's not bloody over. It was never over. It was never over. The investigation was done. The investigation was faked by the betting agencies, so their consumer protection framework wasn't adhered to. The third-party report was just false. It wasn't true. All we need to do is force them into a legal setting by mediation, force them to review the report that was done, and to view the fraud that was available at the time. And it's a clear-cut case. It's as simple as that. We don't need to wait for Trump to come back, which he likely will, and even soon. And I mean, even if he does, what we're doing here and what we're working on now will put us in the prime position for damages. And it'll also put us in a prime position to not waste any time once Trump does come back. Because if you think that they're just going to hand over the money because you're righteous, or the truth is going to set you free, or what, I don't know. But I mean, at the end of the day, some things you just got to fight for, and you got to get off your ass and you got to have a go. And a lot of people have just sat there and sat on the fence. And I mean, our groups have just been constantly hammered by paid actors from Betfair and Sportsbet and Flutter that flood our groups with infiltrators and paid actors to discourage, to divert, to manipulate us, to trick us. And I mean, I don't even ban them, because I get on there and I just fight with them, because they're easy to fight, they're easy to beat, and the betting agencies are easy to beat too. I mean, you just got to get in there, be direct, stick to the facts. We won, and they lost, and it's as simple as that. They've accepted the bet, they've accepted the fraud. Now we'll prove that Trump actually won. And we'll prove that their investigation was faked. It used a third-party report, which they tried to use to diminish their liability and responsibility. Yeah. So it's as simple as that, Drew.
There's quite a lot of evidence that's piled up now, isn't there?
Oh, there's a lot more evidence which is piled up, and that's all admissible. But I mean, at the end of the day, what was available back there in December, you can't You can't deny it. And then you can't deny that fraud didn't happen and that it didn't change or alter the outcome of the US election. And it's utter ignorance. And it's a disgrace to the people which have the odd bet, which have a go, which are using a service. That service done a disservice to the people. And I mean, either way, this information and this knowledge needs to be shared with everyone across the world, because they have taken advantage of basic people living their lives using a service, and the betting operators have taken full advantage of these people who are just having a go. They believed in someone, that person did win, and they won by a landslide. The investigation which they done was rubbish. It was absolute rubbish. Not one court ever said there was any lack of evidence or no credible evidence, which was in the report, which determined their outcome.
And okay, so we'll have to next state. Yeah.
What we're doing now, Drew, is obviously this is time consuming. We've got paid researchers working and document writers filing and compiling all our documents and preparing all our information and evidence, and we're trying to recruit more people to join this and put ourselves in a position to take action, because no action is the equivalent of nothing.
No.
I mean, no action is going to get you nothing.
Nothing. No.
It's not rocket science. You've got to do something.
It's not. Yeah. Yeah.
Man, it just.
Well,
man. Anyway, so we've got a group. We've got a couple of groups, and everybody's been chipping in $100. It's not much, and we'll get it to a point. It'll keep funding our legal writers, and if by any chance that we don't succeed by mediation, then we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. If we've all got to chip in more money, whether it's 500 or 1,000, and we've got 100 people, we've got enough money there. All the legwork's done. Pretty much by then, we're probably even going to have a law firm do it pro bono, because all the groundwork will be done. They'll hardly have to do anything. And I'm pretty sure anyway, we won't even need it. Well, I'll probably beat it myself, mate, in a mediation session, because it's simple. It's direct. It's simple. We're not flip-flopping about like flip-floppers, do this and do that. And, you're pretty sure who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say any names. And there's people who are trying to lead people, and, they're going to fire off cannons and do this and that. And, others who just want to sit there and wait and, claim to be righteous. And we're all right in our own minds, but you've got to have a go.
No.
I mean,
I mean, it's just like,
let's go there. Oh, there you won. There's your money. Off you go. Come on. You've been ripped off. Stand up, people, for fuck's sake. Have a go.
Yeah.
Don't take it. No. Don't take it, because while you're taking it, they're just rubbing their hands. While you're sitting there and waiting, you're going, look at these idiots. And we're not, because we all know. And the thing is, everybody.
I think it was quite obvious, even that most people know that something very, very odd went on, and it's just getting the evidence out there. It's on the internet, but
Yeah, we all know Trump's going to come back. And that might be, next week, might be next month, it could be tomorrow. It could be by the end of the year. We don't know that. And the thing is, we want him back, but it's irrelevant. We don't need that. We only need to force these guys
to look
into reviewing what they fucked up, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah, and it's their own rules.
Yeah, it's their own licensing rules, and we got them on negligence. We have them on negligence. So you can claim loss of economic income from what you would have won and how you would have invested it. And don't think for a minute, if you caused the betting agency to lose because you manipulated a race or you interfered with something, that they wouldn't go after you and they wouldn't claim economic loss of income. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
So you all need to start thinking about that and writing it out and compiling that, and we'll include it all. So.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jamie. We'll get this up ASAP.
Yeah.
And,
so it's on. We've got a group on Telegram, class action.
Yeah. Well, I'll put the links in the comments under on the video. So if anyone wants to find out more, they can join Telegram, or we'll put some links in there for you to contact.
Yeah. Sweet as, Drew.
Okie dokie. Nice one.
Hopefully some people see some sense in what we're doing, because we're going for the winnings for all the punters across all the brands under Flutter, which Peter Jackson, the CEO, is arrogantly at the helm of, even in the US. So, and we're not gonna go away. We're not gonna give up, because we don't do that. We don't sit down with our hands crossed and, hoping for the best. We've got to take the matters in our own hands and fight back. And we got it. It's as simple as that.
Okay, so then.
It's class action funding and litigation paddy power.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, Drew?
Right. It's right.